get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I'm here with Kevin Horrigan of Spinutech. And before I formally introduce Kevin, I always like to mention other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And Kevin, I know, is a huge fan of EOS. And so people can check out the interview I did with Gino Wickman, who wrote Traction. Check that interview out. Also, the interview I did with Mark Winters, who co-authored Rocket Fuel with Gino Wickman. Both of them are fantastic books, and check out those individual episodes. Also, episode with Todd Tasky, and he talks about selling your agency. He basically helps agencies sell and all the different things of what goes into that. So check that out for any agency who's not thinking of selling. It's still important because it's all the systems and processes you put in place that makes it attractive to a seller. So check that episode out and many more on Inspired Insider. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We help you run your podcast. You know, for me, Kevin, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And over the past decade, I've found no better way to do that than to profile the people and companies I most admire. If I read a book, I'm like, this was amazing. I get to ask the questions I'm wondering as I'm reading the book from those authors. You talk about Chris Voss of Never Split the Difference, like what would he say to this? And I invite them on and let them shout from the rooftops what they're working on and from their business. So if you've thought about podcasting and you have a business, I believe you should. Just like you have a website, you call Kevin and his team to build you one. I believe every business should and will have a podcast. So if you've thought about it, you have questions, go to rise25.com or email us. We're happy to answer them. Support at rise25.com. And today I have Kevin Horrigan. He's president of Spinutech. He founded Bayshore Solutions in 1996, and he's delivered websites and custom web applications to thousands and thousands of clients in over 54 countries. And he's been doing it for over 25 years, if you could believe that, if you think back to the internet and how long the internet's been around. And he's led Bayshore Solutions and Spinutech through growth and change to a leading end-to-end digital agency. Kevin, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate it, Jeremy. I look forward to it.
Bring me back a little bit to 1996. And I know that you started it from scratch. You grew it. It shrunk. You grew it. Take me a little bit back to the original, starting the company.
Sure. I think back in January 1996, maybe 1.5% of companies had a website at that time. And so at that time, we had another company that was what you call today an IT integrator or managed services provider, but we were going into people's local businesses and helping manage their servers that used to be in a closet in their office and workstations that were connected by cable to those servers. And we were their outsourced IT department. And in that journey of managing their network and their infrastructure, we had one of our engineers who really liked building websites very early on. And so he had convinced me to ask if we could build their website. And so the ask, Jeremy, was, would you like a website? And the first response we got consistently over and over again is either, what is a website, or we'll never need one of those. And so very early on, we were marketing a product to a company who wasn't aware of the need for that product yet. And
that's a tough one.
That's a whole other, but it was probably about, when this started in 1995, and probably about 6 to 9 months later, some of those customers started calling back and said, hey, could you send John that engineer out? We're thinking about that website thing that he was talking about, and we might need one of those. But it was a simple 3-page website for $500. And, that's how we got started. As 1996 started to move on, consumer awareness started to become there, that commercial awareness, I should say, started to become aware that, hey, this website thing is probably something we need to think about. And then, what was a $500 3-page website started to become a $5,000 10-page website, and the evolution went on. We started in 1996 with 3 team members. And by 1998, we had grown to 30. But then this thing called the dot-com bubble that we didn't know was going to happen started to happen. And we went from 30 team members to 225 by the time year 2000 happened. And then that dot-com bubble burst, and we went from 225 down to under 20 team members. And that journey from 30 to 225 back down to a 20, took place in probably about a 2.5-year window of time. And, people ask like, how did that happen? Well, it grew like crazy because everybody think they needed the best website ever, or we're trying to outspend each other. There's a lot of investment capital into great ideas that really weren't thoroughly thought through. And then in March of 2000, the NASDAQ crashed. And when that crashed, the capital that was fueling all these startup businesses disappeared. And shortly after that, we had to send our existing customers who were delinquent in paying their invoices. If they couldn't get current, we were going to have to terminate services. And probably 90% of our customer base could not get current. And so what was funny is going back to, there was nothing funny about it. Some of the experience gained is in 1996, our average project was $500. In 1998, it was $5,000. In the year 2000, it was $216,000. When it went back to 2002, it was back to about $15,000 again. And it seemed the reflection in the rearview mirror was it was easy for people to spend that $216,000 when it wasn't their money. But when it was back to people who were spending their own money for a known need to help them support their business for its current stage or maybe 1 or 2 steps forward, but not this leapfrog, swinging for the rafters and then some, it went much more to a disciplined spend with the disciplined expectations of what they're going to get back in return. And that's how we survived. Our core clients who got started with us didn't go away, but the ones who were swinging for the rafters with capital that wasn't theirs were the ones, unfortunately, who didn't survive. And as a result of that, as those clients left, a lot of our team had to leave as well.
Were you, I know some of the .com companies were looking at going public at that time. Was there any of that talk with you?
Yes, yeah, we had engaged Deutsche Bank. We had filed their S1. We were marching down Wall Street when the NASDAQ crashed. We were probably within 20 days of taking our own company public. And so, that was a soup of the day, if you would, of what companies in our space would do. And we were being approached, for a year and a half prior to just, you're a company that should be going public and all those types of things. I think there's a statistic in our industry, Jeremy, that only 2% of the companies in the internet services space before year 2000 are still in business today. I think had we gone public, we would be one of those casualties that wasn't able to navigate what we needed to do to be able to reposition the business as quickly as we were able to do so. With maybe public scrutiny, being a public company and the scrutiny and expectations there, I think we would have been one of the casualties. Fortunately, we ended up being one of the 2% who survived.
Ken, I was talking to another agency owner and, telling him a bit of your story. I didn't know the full story. And they were like, you got to ask him, why did he continue? Right? Because going from 225 to 20, I'm sure a lot of business just like, this is not for me. I'm done. This is too stressful. Take me back to that time. It's a blip right now when you look at the timeline, but at that time, everything came crashing down.
Absolutely. And people who know me probably say that I have an element of tenacity to me and I don't tap out easy. But when we were going public, the company did bring on some angel investors. And there was a point where I said to them, listen, guys, I don't think your money is going to end up in a good result. And I recommend that we potentially consider, stopping this right now, because the last thing I want you to continue to invest money into this business that I don't think is going to have a good return for you. I don't stand for that. And I would hate to feel taken advantage. And quite honestly, I had an exit in a prior business not too soon before all of that. And I was in a situation where I didn't need to work either. And I just was open and honest with the investors. And they said, let us huddle and we'll get back to you tomorrow. And I'll never forget, this is a classic line. I'll never forget this. But I come back and they said, hey, Kevin, we had a conversation and we know Kevin Horrigan's not a quitter and we're in for the long haul. And I'll never forget that line. I even chuckled when he said it. I said, that's a classic. Like, I'm going to borrow that sometime down the road. But they said, no, we want to see this thing through. We think that you guys have something there. And it may not be what we started off with. I think what we started will never happen, but we believe in you and we believe in the team and we believe in the company. and we want to see this through. And so, I was ready to tap out. I was ready to say this is bad investment that isn't going to pan out. Fortunately, many years down the road, I was able to buy those investors out, and we all had a good we had a good run, and they had the foresight to stick it through a little bit longer than I was than I was willing to consider. But when they said they were in, and we had good expectations known of each other, we did it, and we got back to being tenacious, and we found our way out of it. And slowly we grew back. We probably we went from down to less than 20 people. Probably less than 3 years later, we're back at 50 people again, and we had grown, and we'd found out we found out who we serve and why we serve them, what value we bring to them, and it was back to having fun again.
Talk about the timeline, the evolution of the services there, right? Because you started off with IT.
Yes.
Do you still do any IT?
No, that business, we ended up exiting out of that business in 1996. And so seeing the vision of what the digital side was going to be versus what, and so fortunate that had that opportunity too, because, servers were no longer going to be in people's offices anymore, running cables, all that stuff was on its way out either. Didn't know that at the time, but that business model was going to have to be significantly evolved and become a true managed services provider and things of that nature. But we just went full steam into being a web design, web development, and web hosting company in 1996, 97, 98. 1999, the marketing side came around with, like AOL and things of that nature. And certainly then it evolved into, some more of the more common companies that we know of today that we're in the app channels that we market in today. But, the heartbeat of it really started as a web design and web development company who, oh, by the way, hosted the websites as a convenience to our clients. And then digital marketing services started to build into the services level as soon as they started to open up those doors. And search engine optimization was the primary component of it, and then paid media came along and things of that nature.
We were talking before we hit record here, and about the digital agency of the future, right? Yes. And you had a merger 18 months ago. I feel like your journey is always just continuing to grow. You're always seeing what's the next step for you to grow even more sustainably.
Yes.
Talk about that decision of the merger, and that we'll get into the digital agency of the future.
Sure. Jeremy, I think for 26 years people ask me what's the vision of your company, and I think they're asking me to speculate about where search engine optimization is going to be, or where Google's going to be, or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it might be. I've never stood on the thin limb to predict 3 years from now where we're spending our clients' money and our people's time. I've never took the liberty to stand on that thin limb 3 years out. But I've said this for 25 plus years. We're going to remain digital experts at a level here where the normal companies that we work for, knowledge is here. And as long as we've maintained that digital expertise to help them grow their business, that's quite a few steps ahead of theirs. That's the vision of where our agency is going to be. It's maintain that expertise at a higher level because we're just focused that's our core vertical of what we do, and serve people who don't have that. And there's an old saying, outsource what you're not an expert at. We're that expert that our customers want to outsource that service to. And I always really we have a CPA, we have lawyers, we have all those things. We could file our own tax returns. We could represent ourselves for any legal situation, no differently than any company could choose to do their own digital. But we choose to pay someone else because we believe that investment will have a better return on investment than doing that ourselves. And that's what our vision is of the agency of the future, continuing to have that level of knowledge over and above where the majority of people who need the services are, and continue to provide value to them and helping them accomplish what their goals are at a level of expertise north of what theirs is.
So the decision of the merger, how did that come about?
So it was an easy decision to understand why. And that is, we have been trying to become what I call an end-to-end digital partner to our customers. And end-to-end means their copywriting, their web design, their social media advertising design, complex web development, web hosting, and then all the different iteratives of what digital marketing would be. And digital continues to just grow so quickly. It's growing more broadly, and the need for skill is growing more deeply. Our team of 65 people, we could check the box of being end-to-end digital in a couple of those boxes. Then we could say maybe in a light pencil, we could check one. And then maybe the next few, that would be in a roadmap. We're trying to get all of those. But to be the end-to-end digital partner, you need a company with scale. It needs enough team members who are experts in all these different components, what end-to-end digital is. And in knowing that my partner, Mark, for 4 years before our merger, his company had taken a stronger march into more complex digital advertising than my company, Bayshore Solutions, is. And our DNA started as a web design, web development company, and that DNA had not left us. And we had some more complex capabilities and some different platforms that we had built websites with a lot of experience in. And so we looked at, as we looked at partnering together and knowing each other very well for 4 years and starting to compete against each other a little bit, like, gosh, if we came to some of these opportunities as one company, it could check the box on all the website things and check the box on all the digital marketing, wouldn't that be a greater value to the customers? And we started to say, yeah, I think it would. And then we said internally, like, for our team members, we want to create a great career path for our team members. What if we really can expand all these services, that these are new career path choices that you have now today, post-merger, than it would be trying to figure out how to get there. And thought, gosh, it's creating a better career path. And then we thought we're building a better company because we're serving our clients better by maybe eliminating some partners that they need to do all of their digital and building an end-to-end shop with an integrated methodology of all those services under one roof, as opposed to hiring multiple different partners who've never worked together before, who try to figure it out, who really don't want to work together, who love to take any market share of overlap of services from that brand. And often they help get that market share to them because they help the other company fail. It's not good for the brand, but it's good for them to acquire the business. And so we saw the opportunity here. It's better for our clients. It's better for our coworkers, and we're going to have more fun as a company serving it. And so the logic behind that became, pretty easy to get excited and rallied around. And we had an opportunity to take that to market just before the merger, less than a month before the merger. We had an opportunity to pre-leak to a prospect that we were putting this together because we were having an opportunity to win one side of the digital, but the other side was going to go to another company, and the other company was going to win it, only wanted it all or didn't want any of it. And so the brand said, gosh, I can't believe these people are going to turn down half the business. And we leaked, like, we're about to be one company that can do both sides of this. And it validated out, and we were able to earn that opportunity. And so taking that live just shortly before pre-merger was, just another validation that not only we thought this through and checked with some of our trusted relationships if to validate or shoot holes or blind spots in what we were trying to do, to be able to walk away with a new client partnership based on the value proposition of being a broader end-to-end agency with deeper skill sets across the board, and earn that opportunity was a great validation.
I want to talk about navigating the merger. If an agency came to you, Kevin, and said, I'm going to be going through this in a couple of months, what advice would you have for them? And what are some of the lessons you learned from navigating the merger?
Yeah, I think everyone has their own opinions and things like that. I think usually just in three different buckets, but they all have to be equally served. What does this mean for the clients? Why is this a win for the clients? Why is this a win for the coworkers? How does this benefit the team? And how does this benefit the new company? And all of those need to be very positive and very related. What's the new story? What's the purpose? Who do we serve? How does it make everybody better? If it only serves one of those entities or two of those entities, there's going to be a disappointed entity. And when there's a disappointed entity, there's risk of a merger with friction and frustration. But if we really believe and we validate, not just breathe our own exhaust on these things, but validate through some outside trusted relationships, this is a benefit for our clients. This is a benefit for our coworkers. This is a benefit for our company. And culturally, everyone gels. We were fortunate in our merger. Our leadership teams had a chance to meet each other before the merger in a way to support two agencies, trying to help provide support to each other and sharing learning lessons. My partner, Mark, and I were in a YPO forum for 4 years prior to the merger. So we spent a half day a month helping each other grow. And then we spent an hour every week supporting each other again. So we had very deep relationships. We decided we trusted each other well enough to start to let what we were benefiting from that to our leadership team. And shortly after, the feedback from our team saying we both thought each other were really nice and really smart and very complimentary, it made it very easy to see that there was an opportunity our coworkers would benefit, our clients would benefit, and we think we're a better agency as a result of it. And so I just say, evaluate those things. There's always the financial component of it too. I think, if the agency principal, what do you see your future role is? Are you active? Are you inactive? If you are active, is your role defined? How are you going to gel with the new culture? Agency owners, can come often with a lot of personality, or strong personality. And how's that going to integrate with the new company and things of that nature? And I'm always happy with any of those agency owners to share any experiences too, if they'd ever want to connect offline. But I think you really have to see, how's this a benefit to the customer? How's it a benefit to the coworker? How's it a benefit to the company? Are they equal, all beneficial, so everyone feels well served? And I think it should go pretty well after that.
I'd love to hear how your role changed. I mean, not saying you answered anyone now, but like, you're used to running the company, making all the decisions. And when you merge, you have other, a CEO or someone from another company. So how did your role change in this merger?
Yeah, no, it's an evolving journey. I think my partner, Mark, and I are 50-50 co-managing partners. But pre-merger, we decided how to split that 50-50. Very important decisions. We'd both weigh in and make that decision jointly together. But then we decided to diversify because this company had gone deeper into the digital marketing. He'd still act as an executive thought leader in digital marketing, and vice versa. I would do that in complex web design and web development components. And so teams looking for support from an executive level would know where they could go there. My partner, Mark, is an amazing person focused on culture within the organization. And I'm a very strong numbers guy. And so it's very easy to see how to complement. A great company has to have an amazing culture, and it has to have great financials. And so we're able to figure out too, where our organic path of what we like to do was very complementary, because these things were making a great company, but both of us saw where our experience was on a different side of it. And so, we've learned, fortunately for us, it fit like a glove for us. And then I think, over the year, Jeremy, we learned that it'd be important for us not to share our own individual viewpoints unless they were consistent, and not conflicting, because it was difficult for the team to understand where to go. So we've learned that, when we see things from different perspectives, which usually those two perspectives can create one amazing perspective, we have those conversations and we eventually deliver one voice, but one that we both believe in and are excited about, but not one that's of conflicting direction to the team and not knowing where, what to make of all of that. And so, that journey's been fun. It's been enjoyable to look to see how to develop new team members and to taking on some of the different responsibilities and things of that nature. Still building relationships with new customers, partnering with vendors and stuff is something both Mark and I still enjoy doing quite a bit. But really, instead of making a decision for everything, it was really kind of splitting some of those decisions, and he taking on the cultural side, the digital marketing side, and me taking on more of the operations and on finance and legal and web design and web development, and trusting each other to do a great job. And fortunately, we have that great trust of each other.
Sounds like you complement each other really well.
It's lucky, because I think, in our discussions prior to really getting deep into the merger discussion, those weren't things we had thought through. It just felt like the assets of what my company was and his, building one better agency of the future, all seemed like a great reason. And oh, by the way, we started to figure out what our roles were going to be and how that complemented later. But that wasn't part of our early discussions. It was more discovery at the tail end of our discussions.
I could see someone who's, maybe into culture. I don't know if this is the case with both of you, be like, listen, it stresses me out, or it actually drains my energy to think about the numbers and operations. And he's like, Kevin, I'm glad I have you. Do you consider yourself, when we talk about rocket fuel, I know you're from, Gino Wickman's Traction, are you more of a visionary or more of an integrator, or how do you break down as a leader as far as that goes?
So today, we use Mark as our visionary. I sit in what's called the owner's box. And so very number scorecard driven. And then we have an integrator that works with us as well.
I want to talk about the role progressions. You mentioned something exciting about a merger is there's now the career path changes.
Yes.
What was the role, like when you built out the role progressions and career path with Bayshore Solutions? What did that look like? And then what does it look like after the merger?
Yeah. So I think, again, now that we've merged, the former Bayshore Solutions now has more digital advertising capabilities than it had when it was just Bayshore Solutions. And we might have people that we used to work for Bayshore Solutions who were aspiring to maybe take on some of those skill sets that Bayshore Solutions might eventually have gotten to, but didn't have available right out of the gate. And vice versa with Spinutech. It was an opportunity for them to have some opportunities to take their career path, maybe in some of the areas that Bayshore Solutions was further advanced in. And so in being able to say the new co now has all of these service areas with all these skill needs. Many of those were new to the two companies coming into this. They knew that probably each company was trying to get there. But now we're there, and now that path to be able to diversify what your career path might be by taking on some different trainings and things of that nature to diversify your skill set and maybe pick a different career path was now available to them.
In the smaller agencies, when, someone is 10 or 20 people as opposed to 50, 60, 100, 200 people, people are doing the work there. And how do you decide to move someone into leadership? Or do you have outside? I feel like in the beginning, it's kind of a flat organization, and then you start putting layers in. At what point do you start putting layers in? I don't know if it's a company, revenue or team member size that you're like, okay, we need someone managing these people, and how you move them up. Because some people, I imagine, like doing the skill. Some people, may see that management potential.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I tell you, I don't think that's never not evolving and improving. But this is one of the things too, just from thinking from a team member perspective, what the merger meant. It meant new layers of management that didn't exist in the prior two companies. And a lot of that management was elevated up from the teams that merged together. So as those companies were smally apart, the layers of management that we have today didn't exist. And so, there's all kinds of new management opportunities, many filled within, a few maybe hired from without. But, again, I think some of the model of how to go about that is leveraging traction, right? So we leverage traction. Everybody has an accountability, and they know who, they know what's responsible for them. They know what their measurables are, and they know who, helps is their coach and their boss, so to speak. And so, Traction has what's called the accountability chart. And, very early on our Traction journey, it was putting together that accountability chart. And then that evolved as the company's grown and created new layers of management and really new roles within the agency itself. And so, that accountability chart is something that we look at a quarterly basis and continue to evolve it. But certainly as a new company, it created, a significantly different accountability chart than it had independently before, and quite a few areas of new leaders to be developed in the company.
You don't have to name names here, Kevin, but can you think of a person in like the different roles that they started off and where they ended up? Meaning like, they started as a junior web developer, then they moved to senior, then they moved to project. I'm just to get a little granular with it. Who's someone we can like, here's the trajectory they actually took, and now they're senior project manager. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that there's quite a few of those case studies to celebrate. And it's one of the most proud things of being a business owner is seeing the development of your team. And so I just had a discussion with one of our team members yesterday who is going through a personal event. I don't want to say it because it's confidential and secret, but it's an amazing personal event that I'm excited. I'm excited when I hear about someone buying their first house, getting married, have their first child. But a lot of these things are a byproduct of their career growth within the company too, and the ability to go buy their first house and things of that nature. And so, I would tell you that we've probably, promoted probably 25 to 35 people in the first 18 months of our journey together. And probably at least a few have gone through multiple promotions. And it's great to see people progressing in that journey and in allowing us the opportunity to create that path for them to be able to do so. And hopefully, delighting our clients and be delighted with the team that they're doing it with. And, with delighted clients and a team who loves working together and doing great results, it helps us build a great agency.
Do you remember, as far as, this person is now whatever their position is, can you take me through that path? Like, what were they when they started? And then what were the positions? I'm just curious of what actually their progression was of the, okay, here's where they started, and then here's the positions they went through in the company.
So we have we have a very talented individual who started out as an office administrator for us, who now today runs all of our inside sales, still managing office responsibilities and many of the other tasks, but leads our inside sales and absolutely crushes it. And this person I have a nickname for, because there's sometimes we doubt we're able to do the next thing that maybe is being considered. And we've had many conversations about, with the right training and the right attitude, you can do anything you want. And this person's just literally, probably doubled their income here at the agency, and quadrupled their responsibility. And it's just so enjoyable to see someone come in with the one set of expectations to go in a direction they never, ever, ever, ever would have chosen to come work for our company had they known they're going to be in the role they are today. Never. They would have been scared to death and absolutely said it wasn't a role for them today. But, creating this agency of the future and all these new career paths and things of this nature, and with the right training and the right attitude, people can do things that maybe they didn't think of before. And I think this person would say that they're overjoyed at what they've been able to learn, shocked that they were able to do it, surprised, proud of themselves, very happy, and it's helped them grow in their career. It's helped them be able to support their family better, and it's a great journey to watch someone come in at that level and now lead a very important service area at the company.
With that situation, Kevin, you say this person is an office administrator, this person is a rock star, we want to move them up and have them take on more responsibility. Was it where they were doing the office administration and you immediately put them into an inside sales, or was there some progression of other things they did within the inside sales before they kind of headed it up?
I think it's someone who was in office administration, front desk clerk, answering the telephone, greeting guests as they come into the agency, that type of role, who has some downtime in between phone calls and guests coming in and things of that nature. And so you start to think about, well, could you help utilize some of that downtime for everyone's sake? I think a lot of people don't want to be bored at work, right? And so you start to look at ways, and they have a positive attitude and a glass full approach. And so you have to say, listen, we could maybe use a little bit of help here and here. And literally this person started doing accounting for us, literally was doing our deposits, was doing accounts receivable, literally was doing things like never, ever, ever when they took that role did they think they'd have an accounting responsibility. And then we say, okay, can you shift over here to some of the inside sales things? And then, we're a company who uses HubSpot as a platform to manage our own CRM and marketing automation. And I've become HubSpot certified numerous times over my career. And I think HubSpot's training's absolutely top notch. And, this person we asked to take on a couple of responsibilities that HubSpot would be the platform. And they went through some of that training. And I think they enjoyed what they were learning, and they were able to put it to work, and they were able to see the results, like the impact. They saw it when they were helping us in accounting and get deposits paid faster, getting invoices to clients who needed them, things of that nature. They saw the impact that they were making and how it was helping the agency. And when we asked them to consider shifting over here, they could see how we were performing better. And I think that's the career reward that team members get when they see that their activity is actually making a difference. And again, they would have never, ever signed up for the role to do accounting or to do inside sales, but crushed it both ways and had no prior experience in either one, zero prior experience. But again, a glass full attitude and a desire to help and some bandwidth of their schedule. And, we were able to develop, it's a great example of someone developing to have a senior role within our company today, starting out answering the phones at our agency.
Yeah, it's exciting for them probably to see all of the skill sets they've gained because of just doing it slowly but surely, getting the training. You mentioned the accountability chart. And so I'm wondering how do you use EOS as a company? Yeah.
So we try to stay, we have a EOS integrator, and he uses the term pure EOS. What does that mean? It's probably very subjective to many people who hear the phrase pure EOS. But I think the intent of that is to stay as close to the book as possible and to the teachings as possible, and not try to derive your own system. in my experience, Jeremy, I've been around a lot of companies who practice EOS, but they haven't decided who the integrator and the visionary is going to be. So they claim they're doing EOS, but they're not following the principles. I've been through many who, maybe do only one L10 within their company, don't use the accountability chart, things of that nature. And so while they claim they're doing EOS, it's such a light version. And often in my experience with these brands, the reason they haven't gone deeper is the decisions needed to be made to take EOS to the next level and the next level and the next level are not easy. They're not going to be fun, but it's those decisions that are holding them back. It's those decisions why they decided to go to EOS in the first place, but they haven't stayed committed to be able to make those decisions. And so we as a company want to leverage what over 80,000 companies are, many who are operating very well, and not try to follow an operating system that Mark and I created on our own, but one proven by over 80,000 companies out there, and use that as our operating system. And I joked before we went into the EOS, I had asked our leadership team if they would read the book, and we would decide a month from now if we were going to follow the EOS. And we voted, we were all unanimous to do so. But I said prior to the EOS, we were following the KOS. Have you ever been through that operating system before?
No.
No one has. It's called the Kevin operating system. And no one's written a book about it yet. It'd be a horror story and a nightmare. But we're getting off the KOS, so to speak, and making it as we go, so to speak. But instead leveraging a framework that over 80,000 companies are using very successfully. And wanting to graduate from the joking KOS into the EOS. It's like, listen, this has been perfected by many, many companies. Let's not believe we're smarter than all the research that's been done here. And let's just be disciplined to following this with an implementer, holding us accountable to following it as pure as we can go and not try to deviate from the system. There's going to be no perfect system out there. And there's many systems that compete with EOS and probably could get similar results. Just pick one and be good at the one that you pick. And that's the decision we made.
What's an example? You mentioned there's a bunch of hard decisions you have to make as you're going through the EOS process. What's an example of a hard decision that you and the team had to make?
I think, the most difficult ones are regarding the team. There's I love decisions that are black or white because they make the decisions for themselves. Decisions that are gray, everyone sees the shade of gray differently. And I think when it comes around people, it can be very subjective. So who should be the head of this team? Well, there could be someone who has the best skill in that area, but has no leadership experience, or has the best skill, but has demonstrated they don't like leadership. Now, so you have one who wants leadership, but maybe isn't as good in the skill. Another one who's amazing in the skill, but has either demonstrated they're not good leaders or said they don't want to be a leader. So who becomes the head of that accountability chart? It becomes a difficult question to answer. But certainly the person with the skill who doesn't want to do it probably shouldn't do it, but they may feel disrespected that they're not the head of the chart. And so I think the hardest parts about making some of these decisions about who goes in what seat, so to speak, because for sure, there's going to be people who are excited about the seat they're being asked to take. And absolutely, there's going to be people disappointed. And so it's, making those decisions that have a lot of human emotion about them are not fun at all. But by not making those decisions, it's also probably holding everyone back. Those two people, hypothetically in that situation, they don't know who's leader. They may be jockeying to be leader by being intentionally aggressive and trying to be leader, or maybe disruptive and trying to make the other one fail and things of that nature. It's not healthy for anyone involved, but that's what might gestate if you don't make those decisions. And then ride with those benefits, but there's consequences too. Some people may feel so disrespected they don't want to be part of the organization anymore and so they're not fun decisions to make whatsoever. But I think probably the most difficult decisions involve people.
Yeah. Kevin, I want to give people an idea of exactly what you and the company do at Spinutech. And if anyone wants to check it out, go to Spinutech. It's SPINUTECH.com. You help a lot of different industries, from agriculture to associations to credit unions to e-commerce to education to finance and banking, healthcare, et cetera. And I'd love to talk about e-commerce for a second.
Sure.
Obviously, that's growing and it's a hot topic. And one of the companies that you worked with, Nop Commerce, and what you did for them.
Yeah, so Nop Commerce is an e-commerce platform that we build a lot of very complex websites on. And And Jeremy, I think as an agency, the e-commerce that we help provide for our clients is very complex, very customized, very deeply integrated into companies' ERP, accounting, inventory, very customized business rules for very complex e-commerce solutions. And one of the platforms we build a lot of is the Not Commerce platform. And so from a web design, web development perspective, we have a large team that specializes in e-commerce, and again, mostly complex e-commerce, helping companies who have been successful selling online, but probably have lots of opportunity to be more efficient in how it operates. And so taking the human component out of some of that stuff about the duplicate entries, multiple databases, and things of that nature, and being able to get to a single source of truth from a database perspective, from an accounting perspective, and help enable the back offices of our clients up to the shopping cart in a very, very, very secure way, has been something that we've been doing for 10 or 12 years and have a lot of really amazing case studies as a result.
In the e-commerce world, someone's listening to this, who's an ideal client for you? Is there a size of company? What does that look like?
I think an ideal e-commerce client is a company who realizes that they are missing out on being as efficient, as effective as possible because they started building a website that wasn't connected to a lot of the different connection points, namely accounting, inventory. And so they're probably running either multiple different databases, which are never in sync. So you never know what the right data is. And that could be customer data, that could be accounting data, that could be inventory data. But it's companies who've got to that point that they built something to build as a proof of concept. That proof of concept absolutely succeeded. It grew. But now the challenges of having, again, lots of different data that doesn't sync up correctly, and you don't know what the source of truth is, becomes frustrating to be able to make some decisions by. And so our ideal client has been through the initial journey of being able to be successful at a proof of concept, but now wants to benefit from a completely integrated back office to their e-commerce experience.
I'm sure there's a lot of companies that start out and they grow and they grow and they put probably duct tape and patches on their current solution. Sure. At what point of size-wise does it make sense we need to engage someone like you?
I think that I hate the answer. It varies, but I think it depends on the pain or opportunity of each individual company. A company might have to be $100 million a year, but the website's only doing $10 million. Versus there could be an $8 million pure e-commerce company it's just as equal of a fit. And so, I really think it's more of the pain or the opportunity that results of it. The pain of you have not matching data, you have a lot of duplicate data entry of your administrative team having to duplicate data entry, which is usually has faults in it and cost. There's opportunities to be able to sell better, either by cross-selling better or having a better opportunity to present inventory better. But it's the opportunity to reduce pain or increase opportunity, and usually through the customizations of a shopping cart that usually is just like you said, Jeremy. It started out as a proof of concept. It started to add more fuel to it. So you start to continue to bolt things on. But at some point, you realize the investment of continuing to bolt things on is going to be more expensive than it is to just eventually restructure it and be able to set it up on its own stable ground going forward.
I know you've
great fit for us.
I know you've worked with companies like Pella and Bake United Direct, but there was an interesting one, Panavision.
Yeah. So we just launched a website for Panavision, global provider of film equipment to the cinema industry. And we were talking pre-COVID, and then you just talk about it's amazing how many companies that we serve and how COVID affected so many. But the cinemas, the movie studios, they essentially kind of shut down for the most part in pre-COVID. But we just launched something for Panavision that it's a website with a global audience, and we built it in the Sitefinity platform. Lots of integration. There's a e-commerce like component where you can find product, you can get a quote on that product. You don't actually check out with a credit card, but it's an amazing global website with an amazing team at Panavision, who had the courage to know that in a new COVID world, this website was needed. And we just launched that probably less than 2 months ago. And I enjoy anybody to go take a look at it. It's panavision.com, but it's an amazing global experience of a brand who knew they'd operate in a different capacity, whatever the new COVID world would look like, and had the courage to go out there and build something. And they did a great job.
Kevin, last question. And first of all, thank you. Thanks for sharing the journey and the stories. And everyone can check out spinutech.com, check out more episodes of the podcast. You have offices all over, of Iowa, Illinois, Denver, Tampa. I wonder if you can just give us one or two couple things that you do culturally that helps. Again, in this virtual world, you have also offices all over the place, and we're in this, virtual working world as well. What do you do as a company that helps with the culture?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So as a company of about 165 team members across 5 offices today, we still haven't asked our coworkers to come back to work. We're optional today in those 5 offices with 165 team members. I would bet we have somewhere between 25 and 35 people a day maybe go in, 20 to 35 people a day go in, except for days we have an intentional event that may attract people to come in. We have what we call an all team meeting, which is, town hall meeting or a staff meeting. And we serve lunch on those days for people to come in. We do see a good amount of people come in for that day. They like to interact. We have one person within our organization dedicated to serving the team and the culture and making a great experience there. And she does a great job of creating all kinds of different events online and in person. But we have so many different flavors of activity that people here on the team like, that she's created all these different kind of Slack channels, events. We have yoga, we have meditation, we have workouts, we have channels for different types of pets, children, all kinds of things that we facilitate to try to provide that what used to be the water cooler talk that you're not getting today, in a digital world, and still trying to have fun events online. I think when COVID started, it was the virtual happy hours. Those we haven't really held that much of so much, and just try to be more activity driven, but. We're trying to provide a new COVID-like remote work experience by intentionally creating some events that might attract people to come into the office that isn't necessarily work related. Certainly have some customer events that drive people to come into the office. And then certainly trying to figure out from a virtual perspective how to be able to get our whole team connected, because now we have a significant number of team members who don't live anywhere close to the vicinity of office, don't have the opportunity to do that as well. So it's a hybrid of all 3 of those things and trying to navigate what an agency of the future looks like in the COVID world in the stage of where we're at today.
Kevin, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Check out spinutech.com. Check out more episodes of the podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jeremy.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like $100 grand.